All spirit-born petitions are certain of an answer. Ask, and you shall receive. Your spiritual destiny is conditioned only by your spiritual longings and purposes. This sublime search for the God of universes is the supreme adventure of the inhabitants of all the worlds of time and space. Love thus grows. It cannot be created, manufactured, or purchased. It must grow. The real universe is friendly to every child of the eternal God. The evolving soul is not made divine by what it does, but by what it strives to do. The true child of universe insight looks for the living spirit of truth in every wise saying. Contentment is the greatest wealth. The spirit never drives, only leads. Pray for tranquility of spirit and cultivate patience. Anger depletes the health, debases the mind, and handicaps the spirit teacher of man's soul. The true believer does not grow weary in well-doing just because he is thwarted. Happiness and joy take origin in the inner life. The acts of today are the destiny of tomorrow. Devote your life to proving that love is the greatest thing in the world. Failure is simply an educational episode, a cultural experiment in the acquirement of wisdom. We live in God, and God dwells in us. The bonds of time may seem to afflict you, but the God of eternity loves you. Love is the true guide to real insight. Fear not, only believe. You can do important work if you do not become self-important. Relate yourself to every man as if you were in his place. True religion is to know God as your Father and man as your brother. Jesus could help men so much because he loved them so sincerely. He truly loved each man, each woman, and each child. The happy and effective person is motivated not by fear of wrongdoing, but by love of right doing. All things are sacred in the lives of those who are spirit-led. It is forever true. In the spirit, all men are equal. Man is finite, but he is indwelt by a spark of infinity. He who would be greatest among you, let him become server of all. Things are time conditioned, but truth is timeless. Human Human things must be known in order to be loved, but divine things must be loved in order to be known. Religion stands above science, art, philosophy, ethics, and morals, but not independent of them. Free your mind, feed your soul, find your spirit, begin an endless voyage of discovery. Truth cannot be defined with words, only by living. Make sure that the truth abides in your lives and that you daily grow in grace. As you supremely desire, so shall you be. You shall not doubt that faith is the only requirement for eternal salvation. Belief fixates, faith liberates. Give up your intolerance and learn to love men as I have loved you. Whet the appetites of your associates for truth. Give advice only when it is asked for. The will of God can be done in any earthly occupation. Mercy is the natural and inevitable offspring of goodness and love. Emotion alone is a false conversion. One must have faith as well as feeling. To a God-knowing kingdom believer, what does it matter if all things earthly crash? In liaison with God, nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. To see God by faith means to acquire true spiritual insight. But true religion is a living love, a life of service. Some men's lives are too great and noble to descend to the low level of being merely successful. Make prayer your inmost friend and worship your soul's support. Prayer is not a technique of escape from conflict, but rather a stimulus to growth in the very face of conflict. Love is the desire to do good to others. You are destined to live a narrow and mean life if you learn to love only those who love you.
Master made it clear that the kingdom of heaven must begin with and be centered in the dual concept of the truth of the fatherhood of God and the correlated fact of the brotherhood of man. The hope of modern Christianity is that it should cease to sponsor the social systems and industrial policies of Western civilization, while it humbly bows itself before the cross it so valiantly extols. There to learn anew from Jesus of Nazareth the greatest truths mortal man can ever hear, the living gospel of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. God first loves men and confers upon him the potential of immortality, eternal reality. And as man loves God, so does man become eternal in actuality. Of God, the most inescapable of all presences, the most real of all facts, the most living of all truths, the most loving of all friends, and the most divine of all values, we have the right to be the most certain of all universe experiences. Truth, faith, is predicated on profound reflection, sincere self-criticism, and uncompromising moral consciousness. There are only two groups of mortals in the eyes of God, those who desire to do His will and those who do not. God is everywhere present. The universal Father rules the circle of eternity. The human family. The family is the channel through which the river of culture and knowledge flows from one generation to another. The eye of the material mind perceives a world of factual knowledge. The eye of the spiritual intellect discerns a world of true values. Spiritual assurance is the equivalent of your personal religious experience in the eternal realities of divine truth, and is otherwise equal to your intelligent understanding of truth realities plus your spiritual faith and minus your honest doubts. Forget not that I will stop at nothing to restore self-respect to those who have lost it and who really desire to regain it. He was always ready and willing to stop at a sermon or detain a multitude while he ministered to the needs of a single person, even to a little child. I say to you, whoever receives not the kingdom of God as a little child shall hardly enter therein, to grow up to the full stature of spiritual manhood. Conceptual frames of the universe are only relatively true. They are serviceable scaffolding, which must eventually give way before the expansions of enlarging cosmic comprehension. The understanding of truth, beauty, and goodness, morality, ethics, duty, love, divinity, origin, existence, purpose, destiny, time, space, even deity. They are only relatively true. God is much, much more than a father, but the Father is man's highest concept of God. There was so little of the professional, the well-planned, or the premeditated in the Master's earthly ministry. He dispensed health and scattered happiness naturally and gracefully as he journeyed through life. It was literally true. He went about doing good. Faith will expand the mind, ennoble the soul, reinforce the personality, augment the happiness, deepen the spirit perception, and enhance the power to love and be loved. Lighten your burdens of soul by speedily acquiring a long-distance view of your destiny, a universe expansion of your career. Devoted men and women loved Jesus with a well-nigh superhuman affection, and the better they knew him, the more they loved him. And all of this is still true, even today, in all future ages. The more man comes to know this God-man, the more he will love and follow after him. Your actual achievement is not so important as the fact that the direction of your progress is Godward. What you are becoming day by day is of infinitely more important than what you are today. What a mistake for Christians to make when presenting Christ as the supreme ideal of spiritual leadership. They dare to require God-conscious men and women to reflect the historic leadership of the God-knowing men who have contributed to their particular national or racial illuminations during past ages. If any man chooses to do the divine will, he shall know the way of truth. It is literally true. Human things must be known in order to be loved, but divine things must be loved in order to be known. No man lives unto himself. Personality cannot very well perform in isolation. Man is innately a social creature. He is dominated by the craving of belongingness. It is literally true. No man lives unto himself. It is literally true. In all your afflictions he is afflicted. In all your triumphs he triumphs in and with you. His personal divine spirit is a real part of you. Within the bounds of that which is consistent with the divine nature, it is literally true that with God all things are possible. It is literally true that the seraphic gardens of the slumbering personalities respond to the voice of the archangel. It is literally true. If any man has Christ Jesus within him, he is a new creature. Old things are passing away. Behold, all things are becoming new. The evidence of maturity of personality consists in the transformation of human desire, so that it consistently seeks those values which are highest and most divinely real. It behooves the Master's followers in all ages to learn to minister as they pass by, to do unselfish good as they go about their daily duties. Mortal man is just beginning his long ascent to the perfection of the Father in paradise. You see then that the Father gives salvation to the children of men, and this salvation is a free gift to all who have the faith to receive sonship in the divine family. The existence of God can never be proved by scientific experiment or by the pure reason of logic deduction. God can be realized only in the realms of human experience. Prejudice blinds the soul to the recognition of truth, and prejudice can be removed only by the sincere devotion of the soul to the adoration of a cause that is all-embracing and all-inclusive of one's fellow man. Forewarn all believers regarding the fringe of conflict, which must be traversed by all who pass from the life as it is lived in the flesh to the higher life as it is lived in the spirit. To those who live quite wholly in either realm, there is little conflict or confusion. But all are doomed to experience more or less uncertainty during the times of transition between the two levels of living. In entering the kingdom, you cannot escape its responsibility or avoid its obligations, but remember, the gospel yoke is easy, and the burden of truth is light. In accordance with the truth committed to your hands, will a master of truth require a reckoning. God is not only the determiner of destiny, He is man's eternal destination. All non-religious human activities seek to bend the universe to the distorting service of self. The true religious individual seeks to identify the self with the universe, and then to dictate the activities of this unified self to the service of the universal family of fellow beings, human and superhuman. Modern culture must become spiritually baptized with a new revelation of Jesus' life and illuminated with a new understanding of His gospel of eternal salvation. And when Jesus becomes thus lifted up, He will draw all men to Himself. It is therefore evident that the true and inner religion of the kingdom unfailingly and increasingly tends to manifest itself in practical avenues of social service. Jesus taught a living religion that impelled its believer to engage in the doing of loving service. But Jesus did not put ethics in the place of religion. He taught religion as a cause and ethics as a result. And if you are the sons of God, then you have been born of the Spirit of God. And whoever has been born of the Spirit has in himself the power to overcome all doubt. And this is the victory that overcomes all uncertainty, even your faith. When man goes into partnership with God, great things may and do happen. All men recognize the morality of this universal human urge to be unselfish and altruistic. The humanist ascribes the origin of this urge to the natural working of the material mind. The religionist more correctly recognizes that the truly unselfish drive of moral mind is in response to the inner spirit leadings of the thought adjuster.
The hope of modern Christianity is that it should cease to sponsor the social systems and industrial policies of Western civilization, while it humbly bows itself before the cross it so valiantly extols, there to learn anew from Jesus of Nazareth the greatest truths mortal man can ever hear, the living gospel of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. God first loves man and confers upon him the potential of immortality, eternal reality. And as man loves God, so does man become eternal in actuality. Of God, the most inescapable of all presences, the most real of all facts, the most living of all truths, the most loving of all friends, and the most divine of all values, we have the right to be the most certain of all universe experiences. True faith is predicated on profound reflection, sincere self-criticism, and uncompromising moral consciousness. The religious challenge of this age is to those far-seeing and forward-looking men and women of spiritual insight who will dare to construct a new and appealing philosophy of living out of the modern concepts of cosmic truth, universe beauty, and divine goodness. Jesus of Nazareth was indeed a strong and forceful personality. He was an intellectual power and a spiritual stronghold, and red-blooded, rugged Galilean fishermen called him Master. When a wise man understands the inner impulses of his fellows, he will love them. And when you love your brother, you have already forgiven him. When you know that you are saved by faith, you have real peace with God, Jesus. With God the Father, sonship is the great relationship. With God the Supreme, achievement is the prerequisite to status. One must do something as well as be something. There are only two groups of mortals in the eyes of God: those who desire to do His will and those who do not. God is everywhere present. The Universal Father rules the circle of eternity. Can you really realize the true significance of the Adjuster's indwelling? Do you really fathom what it means to have an absolute fragment of the absolute and infinite deity, the Universal Father, indwelling and fusing with your finite mortal natures? When mortal man fuses with an actual fragment of the existential cause of the total cosmos, no limit can ever be placed upon the destiny of such an unprecedented and unimaginable partnership. Upon the attainment of the finaliter levels of ascendant experience, these spirits of the sixth stage appear to transmute some mind factor representing a union of certain phases of the mortal and adjuster minds, which had previously functioned as liaison between the divine and human phases of such ascending personalities. This experiential mind quality probably supremacizes and subsequently augments the experiential endowment of evolutionary deity, the Supreme Being. Forget not that I will stop at nothing to restore self-respect to those who have lost it and who really desire to regain it. Jesus. Men seek for the treasures of the kingdom with yearning hearts and weary feet when they are all within the immediate grasp of living faith. Jesus. The endowment of imperfect beings with freedom entails inevitable tragedy, and it is the nature of the perfect ancestral deity to universally and affectionately share these sufferings in loving companionship. Be not discouraged. Human evolution is still in progress, and the revelation of God to the world in and through Jesus shall not fail. Man's greatest victory is the conquest of himself. Man, the civilized, will someday achieve relative mastery of the physical forces of his planet. The love of God in his heart will be effectively outpoured as love for his fellow men, while the values of human existence will be nearing the limits of mortal capacity. The family is the channel through which the river of culture and knowledge flows from one generation to another. When a wise man understands the inner impulses of his fellows, he will love them. And when you love your brother, you have already forgiven him. Increasing happiness is always the experience of all who are certain about God. The eye of the material mind perceives a world of factual knowledge. The eye of the spiritualized intellect discerns a world of true values. A social group of human beings in coordinated working harmony stands for a force far greater than the simple sum of its parts. Your spiritual destiny is conditioned only by your spiritual longings and purposes. Jesus. You may be surrounded with small enemies and be retarded by many obstacles, but the big things and the real things of this world and the universe are on your side. Jesus. And when such disheartened souls sincerely seek for God, hunger for truth, and thirst for righteousness, there is nothing that can hold them in future captivity. Jesus. Spiritual assurance is the equivalent of your personal religious experience in the eternal realities of divine truth, and is otherwise equal to your intelligent understanding of truth realities, plus your spiritual faith and minus your honest doubts. Jesus. Forget not that I will stop at nothing to restore self-respect to those who have lost it and who really desire to regain it. Jesus. He was always ready and willing to stop a sermon or detain a multitude while he ministered to the needs of a single person, even to a little child. Verily, verily, I say to you, whosoever receives not the kingdom of God as a little child shall hardly enter therein to grow up to the full stature of spiritual manhood. Jesus.